So can you tell us something about yourself and what do you do and a little background about you?
Sure. I'll be happy to talk a little bit about that. So, about myself, I am a BCom honors graduate from Lady Shriram College for Women. And after my graduation, I started working in the executive search domain, which is essentially leadership hiring and consulting. So, I worked in that sector for a year and 11 months. And soon I realized that I was more passionate about public policy and making impact at a larger scale. So, I decided to pivot from that sector. And that is when I decided to join the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So, currently, I work with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment in the capacity of a young professional, and my role is to support policy making for the marginalized communities in India. This includes a lot of people from the backward classes, tribal population, SCs, STs, etc. So that is the kind of work that I do right now.
You also did our Future CEOs program, right? So, can you share how it helped you and any fond memory that you remember from the program?
Yes, absolutely. I was, in fact, when you contacted me, Anushka, I was remembering some of the days from the program, and I was just trying to connect dots. And definitely, I'd like to share some of the insights that I have. So, Future CEOs program was my first ever exposure to professional career training. I did it in my first semester or second semester, I don't remember precisely, but in my first year. So, as a first year, it happens with a lot of people, right? We just come from school and college begins, and we're also lost. I think a lot of people are lost that way. But I
True.
think Talerang really helped me understand so many things, get so much clarity to think, about my professional career. I personally was very lost before I did the Future CEOs program. I remember it that way. And there were a lot of things, a lot of mentorship is what the program gave to us. I remember we had a mentor who took all these sessions, and I personally had some issues that they gave us one-on-one mentoring for. So I think all those lessons I have carried those lessons with me. I carried those lessons with me after the Future CEOs program was over, and I continue to carry those lessons with me even now. And one instance that I would like to share with you is, I remember part of the Future CEOs program was also for all of us to share our introduction. I
Hmm.
think it was towards the end of the program. Okay, all of us were supposed to prepare a pitch and talk about our future goals, what we want to do in life, our inspiration, something like that, if I
Right.
remember it well. Right. And I precisely remember that at that point of time, my stance was that, what I want to do in my life, I want to be in a position where I can inspire people through my journey. So
Love.
that's what I said. That's what I said, and I was just thinking about it yesterday, and I remembered that that is what I actually said in that particular session of Talerang. And I think finally I am here. I'm talking about my journey. So I think it had a very critical role to play in the journey so far.
Now that you've told me that you're working in the government sector, why did you choose to work in the government sector as opposed to the corporate sector? And how was it like working with the Indian government?
Sure. So for me, it was largely to pivot to the impact sector. That is what I wanted to do. And a reason behind that was I'm a commerce graduate. So in my academics, it was all about marketing, finance, all these related subjects. So somehow I think since it was told to me, since it was expected out of commerce graduates, I was of the perception that okay, now I work for some time. Like all commerce graduates, I work for 2 years or a year, and then I go for my MBA. So
Right.
that's the journey. That's what is expected out of all graduates like me. But then when I was in college, I got the exposure to work on a couple of things which really energized me.
Mhm.
So this included working with the disability cell of my college, as well as working with the women's development cell, or working as a part of NSS and teaching children in the slum areas. So I remembered those experiences, and I think those were the finest experiences I carried with me from college. So irrespective of that, I didn't take this decision right after my graduation. I took the usual journey, followed the herd, and joined a consulting job. I did it for some time. It was very enriching, and there was so much to learn, and I got very skilled at what I did, etc. But again, like I told you, there was something about feeling energized, feeling very fulfilled about the work that I put in.
True.
So I just tried to reflect on that, and I remembered those experiences from college. And I think remembering those experiences, the way those experiences made me feel, the way I felt about my work at that point of time, it just made me realize that I want to work full time in a sector which is concerning impact. So I just
Yeah.
made that choice for myself. And when I got an opportunity, so working for the government of India, I did joining Impact, I had the option to again pursue Impact from a private sector lens also, as well as working with the government, because there
Yeah.
are a lot of private sector organizations also who work
Yeah.
in this space.
Yeah.
But I did not have like any preference that I wanted to go for the government per se. I think maybe it was just the right time for me, and
Yeah.
I explored the opportunity, so I got into it. But if you ask me why I continue to be here or why I didn't
Yeah.
decide to make a move after I started working in Impact here, I
Right.
will say that the work that the government does, I
Yeah.
personally feel that it is the apex body there, right? We're talking
Right.
about impact, we're talking about so many beneficiary groups. So it is the apex body. Everything channelizes from the government. So I think the impact that can come from the government's end is massive. And this is something that I've realized by being in the system. So I
Yeah.
love that part of it. And I know a lot of times there are several inefficiencies and several loopholes, a
Yeah.
lot of delay, etc. But again, the intensity of the impact which can come from the apex level continues to be massive. So I think I really like that and I find it very impactful. So that is why I continue to decide, continue working in this space through the government only. Yeah. Okay. So I think highs and lows, it's like a part of life. So I think what helps me with the highs and lows is my support system. So I think my advice to everybody out there will be that build your support system. This can include your family, your friends, your mentors, and just talk about the difficulties that you are personally experiencing, and it's fine. You do find a way out. It works out. So I think what works well for me is my support system largely. So I refer to that.
Also been admitted to Harvard Kennedy School. So, can you tell us how should one prepare for their masters, pursuing their masters abroad?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it is a very important area. And if anybody is considering applying for their masters abroad, they should start early. That is my first and foremost suggestion to people. So, for instance, if someone is planning to apply for 2024-25, which will be, let's say, next year,
Next
start
year.
now. Start now is what my suggestion will be.
Yeah.
And when I say start now, you have to start applying for a lot of scholarships that keep
Yeah.
opening up. So I think this is something that I missed out on because I didn't plan that effectively. In fact, I was thinking to defer my admission and maybe consider next year. So Harvard was the only place I applied to, and thankfully I got in. But yes, I think what would really help is to plan at least a year in advance. And in terms of planning, one must look at all the things, including the scholarship options and everything else. But if someone has to, for instance, start from scratch, so I think the first step will be for you to research about what do you want to do as your masters. And when I say research, this includes essentially shortlisting colleges courses. So that's the first step, and give it good time. Go through, like, give it a good month or so, or more than that if you need to. But first come up and prepare your own list of colleges that interest you, that you want to apply for. So I think
Yeah.
that's the number one step. The second step is to also, when you, for instance, you're finalized a couple of courses and colleges that you're interested in. Then the second step is to research about all those colleges and those schools individually. So for instance, it usually happens, okay, when someone researches, they usually shortlist 4 to 5 schools. I have not seen a lot of people or the majority apply for 10, 15 schools at the same time. It's a very big investment and doesn't make sense. So
True. True.
usually people shortlist 4 to 5 schools. So for instance, let's assume someone has shortlisted 4 to 5 schools or and courses. The next step is just understand about each of those courses and those schools and the kind of let's say financial aid, scholarships, opportunities which are open for each of these schools, because this is important. I know this is a bit too early to do it. You might think, why do I have to do it so early? But you have to, because scholarship deadlines are very strict. So for instance, 24-25, some of the deadlines are about to pass in May 2023. So
Yeah.
imagine the kind of timeline that most of the scholarships follow. So in order to not miss out on any opportunity that might make sense for you, So just start early, and for each of the colleges and the courses, just also research about the opportunities in terms of the financial aid. A lot of universities also open up financial aid. Financial aid is also there available externally, but yes, you have to research about it before, right? So once you have done that, once you have made your timeline and you have some clarity about what is about to happen in what month, when am I supposed to submit my application, when am I supposed to submit, etc., etc., what all needs to be done. So then, for your courses, the third step will be to write down the things that need to be submitted or provided to the university, that you need to provide in the initial application. This includes a lot of things. That could include your GRE, GMAT score, IELTS score, etc. Different scores as such. That could also include letters of recommendations, and then essays, SOPs, etc. Every school has different requirements. So whichever ones you have shortlisted, be very thorough and prepare a concrete list of the documents that you're required to submit to the university in the initial application.
Yeah.
Once you do that, and if your university requires you to take some exam or to appear for something like that, just make sure to plan about it a little early and take your exam at least 5-6 months if possible. I know it's a lot of months, but that's why I say that you have to plan very early. So if
True.
your university requires you to take an exam, try to take it at least 6 to 4 months before your submission deadline, if possible. Of course, if your situation allows you to do that, it'll just be ideal if you can plan it that way. So I think about exams, to be specific. Once you're done with your exam, you know why appearing for the exam helps. Appearing for the exam a bit early, it helps that way. You can reappear for it if needed. You can improve your score, so you will have the luxury of time if you just prepare for it a bit early and appear for it that way. So that's one thing. Then you have your scores in hand. That is good. The other step is your LORs, your letters of recommendations, and your essays. Very important things in your applications if you're planning to apply abroad. For your letters of recommendations, think about people who you are going to ask the letter of recommendation from. Try to do that before only. Communicate with that person and tell them that you're planning to apply to these schools, or 4 5 schools in the next fall or spring, etc., wherever you're planning. And just tell them that would it be okay if I can take a letter of recommendation from you. But just understand, who do you take a letter of recommendation from also matters, because the context that goes into that LOR cannot be random, or you cannot ask anyone from your personal network. So it's always better to ask any person who is engaged with you professionally, most likely your professors or your immediate superiors in your organization. So just try to work on that too. And then, of course, a very important area is essays. Very important for your universities. So when you're doing the initial shortlisting, and initially when you're preparing the guidelines and all about what all is required for your university per se, also make note of the essay questions which are there. All right, because every university has a different stance, a different ask. They might ask you different things. For instance, Harvard Kennedy had some 5 essays, very different from how other universities usually operate. Other universities generally ask for 1 or 2 essays or one large SOP, but Harvard was an exhaustive application. I remember working on it, and very intense questions. So you need to do some amount of good reflection at your end, and you actually need to provide them substance. So you have to you need to know what the questions are, and also give it good thought, and then come up with your essays. Get those essays reviewed if possible. Try to keep this in mind, that what works in essays or SOPs is originality, according to my experience. One should try to avoid using, I know there's chat GDP, there are so many options, we can create so much content like that, but try to be original with your content. So I think that will be about just a brief overview about how one should think about it. If you have any specific questions that I can help you with, or anything specific about Howard Kennedy's application, you can ask me and I'll be happy to.
And lastly, what advice would you like to give to students who are still young and in college?
Yes, definitely. I have some good advice for them, because I remember being young and in college, and feeling very confused at times and a little lost and following the herd and all those things.
Yeah.
So I think my biggest advice to students in college right now will be to try out different things. Very, very important. Okay, so join that society, join that club, do that internship, whatever interests you, just pursue it. It's okay if you don't have a job by the end of your college, that is fine, as long as you're doing something which interests you. So I think my biggest advice will be to do that because it really helps. I personally owe a lot of where I am and what I'm doing in my life right now to my college experiences. It's
I
been
agree.
7 years,
Yeah.
seven, no, not seven. I think it's been what 4 years approximately since I graduated,
Mhm.
and I took the decisions that I took in my career at this point of time. A lot of them are connected to my experiences in college. So
Yeah.
very important to just do what you really like and what you feel very energized about at this point of time, especially. So do that,
Yeah. I
right?
think exploring and grabbing every small opportunity that comes your way is the way to get through college.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the second thing will be to not feel very intimidated by the atmosphere in college. And this is specifically for folks in their first and second year. I know I hear it from a lot of people. I've also been there. I remember it precisely. I know it is expected out of us. Certain paths are laid out, and we're expected to follow a particular line of field which is expected out of us because of our streams and all. But it's okay if you follow something, if you do something which is not directly related to your field. That's absolutely fine. I am an example. It works well. When I took a leap of faith and joined the public sector and I pivoted, I was very confused. I mean, I was clear that I wanted to do this, but I was a bit scared also. But now when I look back at it, I think it was a fantastic decision that I took. So just relax and go for it is what my suggestion would be.